10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Look around you and you will see two kinds of people, the influencers and, well, the influenced. With one of my assignments at school, I've been able to understand the power of positive influence, and I've ever since been curious about meeting youths that are making positive impacts within the community. Today's episode of your program, The Platform, is dedicated to celebrating the International Children's Day. And I am super excited to be your host. Our topic for discussion today is making positive impacts, youth perspective. To share experiences and thoughts with me, one after the other, are two individuals, youth of course. My first guest will be introducing himself just after this short break. Stay tuned. I would just like to welcome you back from that very, very short break. So now our guest is here, so can we please meet you?
Hi, my name is Andrew Ajisebutu. I'm a resident physician at the Health Science Center here in Manitoba. I am working in the Faculty of Neurosurgery currently.
Oh, okay. So can you give us a brief insight into your early years as a child and as a teenager?
Yeah, for sure. So I was born in Fredericton, Manitoba, to two loving parents, and I'm an older brother to my sister Aisha. We moved to Winnipeg, I believe, when I was about 4 or 5 years old. So pretty young. I spent most of my time in Winnipeg. I've left for some schooling at McGill, where I did my undergraduate, and then I came back here for medical school and now for residency as well. So that's a little bit about me. I guess growing up, I grew up here in the Manitoba school system, which I'm really fortunate about. My parents decided from a young age to put me in French immersion. I think the idea was that by getting another language, I'll be able to not only have English, but to retain Yoruba better as well as French. It feels like I now have none of them, but no, I was lucky to be in French immersion. I guess growing up, it was interesting. I had a speech impediment actually when I was that I kind of struggled with when I was in the first, second, and third grade. It was really hard for me to get my words out because I had a pretty severe stutter, and it was difficult for me as well just because I couldn't form some words too. And I think it still comes out when I'm really tired, but I was just lucky. I kind of just overcame that with a little bit of speech therapy and time, I would say. But I think that was a kind of a formative experience for me. It kind of, for the longest time when I was a kid, I just didn't really speak a lot. And so it really forces you to listen. I guess I would say my mom would probably disagree. She doesn't think I listen that much. But I think that it does, having to be quiet and having to learn to listen and to sit back and watch others is a really, really good skill to learn. And I'm happy that I learned it from a young age.
So did you ever have any occurrences with bullying from other kids or even teachers because of your speech impediment?
Yeah, so I would say that from a bullying perspective, I was really lucky as well. I think I got some weird looks, and I definitely get passed over for questions, and they tend to stop asking you things or asking for your input for things because it takes you forever to get the words out. But I was lucky. I had some really good friends, younger, who I made when I was quite young, and they kind of sheltered me and protected me. It's a good skill to always be friends with the tallest boy in class because that kind of protects you from some of the things that you could experience if not.
Okay. So then did you find that you moved around a lot because you wanted to experience new cultures, or was it part of like the prestigiousness of school?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So when I was coming to my end of high school and I was thinking about where I wanted to go, obviously the push is to stay in Manitoba, and even the word stay has a kind of a negative connotation, but I would say that's not necessarily true. For me, I went to McGill actually because my next door neighbor, who is a great friend of mine and a good friend of the family, she went to McGill.
Oh.
And so for me, and I looked into it and realized that McGill has a great reputation, or had a great reputation, and I then decided to pursue my education there as well. It helped that I got away from home, and it helped that I was able to go to Montreal, which is a great city.
Yeah.
But part of it was just wanting to have a different experience. When I was early in my high school experience, I had actually gone to Quebec City just for like a little 5-week exchange, and it was interesting because I found that I met a new side of myself that I didn't know. It was kind of a new foray into who I could be. I think when you're in the same place that for most of your life, one of the problems is that you kind of get stuck in your ways. You get stuck in your tropes, and you then aren't able to branch out and see other sides of yourself. And that's not true for when you're going to a new place with a new set of rules and a new set of people in your life, and without the normal crutches or I guess backdrop that you're used to. And so I was really lucky, and I would really encourage anyone, if you have the opportunity to travel, have the opportunity to go anywhere else, to do so.
So how were you able to cope with the independence? And obviously, I assume that you had been living with your parents up until you turned 18.
Yeah.
So then how were you able to cope with like living alone without them and having all that help from them?
You know, I guess now if you look back, I must have coped well. By the time, it didn't feel like that. You know, I remember actually one of my first experiences. My mom had really wanted to go with me to settle me into my first residency, and my dad was like, no, he'll be fine. He wanted to go, so this is him. You know, he's being a man now. And I was 17 at the time, and I got to the residency, but there was no parking, and so I told the cab, okay, just go 2 or 3 blocks down. I'll come back. And so I left all my worldly possessions in a cab in a foreign city with a foreign language, although I spoke French, just not Montreal French. Okay. And I got to the gate, and they were like, oh, well, you can't sign your lease because you're not 18 yet. Where are your parents? And I was like, oh, I thought I could do it without them. And so I come back to the place where my taxi was, and it was gone. Oh. And I was like, this is the first and last mistake I'm going to make in Montreal. It turned out to be okay. He had moved down a couple blocks because he was blocking traffic. Okay. But that was one of the first moments I was like, I am out of my depth. I'm out of my element, and I'm scared. And I think that kind of opportunity is important. You got to be scared in life every once in a while. Obviously, you don't want to push it too far, but it's a big part of learning how to be independent, is realizing that you have to come up with solutions for yourself.
So he didn't steal your stuff?
He didn't steal my stuff. He was great.
Run away?
Yeah, I didn't throw it away, and I eventually got a temporary lease that worked out for me. And I wouldn't necessarily say that it's important to have an experience like that in order to grow. But it is. I think trial by fire is a big part of my learning, at least, and there is a place for it a little bit in education. Okay.
So graduating with first class honors, with distinction in biochemistry, and having been selected as a valedictorian at the University of Manitoba, how do you feel with these achievements?
So I would say that I feel great. You know, hearing it set out, it feels nice, and it's, at the time you try your best. You try to get your grades up. You try to keep them up, and I think that the attitude that I always had was that I just really enjoy biochemistry. I really enjoyed the classes I was in. I did a minor in psychology as well, and I really enjoyed that. And if you enjoy things, it's just way easier to be good at them. You know, I am now a physician, and I do a lot of anatomy is a big part of my life, and physiology is a big part of the work that we do as well. But if I had taken anatomy and physiology back in undergrad, I know I wouldn't be here, because I just wasn't as interested in those things. I had a real keen interest in biochemistry at the time, and I continue to feel that way. And because of that, I was able to do well, and I was able to feel like, you know what, I should do this honors project because it's interesting to me. And those kind of things just open doors. So I always say to people who are in that position of saying, like, what should I choose? What should I do? What's the best way for me to get good grades? It's be interested in what you're doing. Otherwise, it's very difficult.
But, okay, did you have any courses, like in high school or even in university, whereby you were a little, like, shocked and you didn't necessarily want to participate in it?
Yeah, absolutely. And there are always going to be days where you don't want to do what you're doing.
Yeah.
And you have to, I think, there's a balance between what is necessary to get it to do what you need to do, and again, what you love as well. So, I am not a big fan of analytical chemistry, but you need to do analytical chemistry to do biochemistry. And so it's, it was an early morning class, it was a lab that was very difficult and challenging. You kind of have to slog through that. But I think there's probably like an 80-20 kind of ratio that you need to have in your life. 20% of the stuff that you do is going to be hard. I'm a neurosurgery resident. I start work every morning at 6 a.m. I don't like that because it's impossible to like that.
Yeah.
But you balance that with the 80% of, well, I actually really enjoy what I'm doing at the time, and there are other parts of my life that I enjoy. I think that with everything, balance is key. So if you think that, if you look forward at your life, what you need to do, you need to be able to also enjoy looking around you as well. Yeah.
Thank you. So you returned to medical school in Manitoba, and then you served as president of the class of 2019. So how has it been combining studies, leadership, and a life balance?
Right, absolutely. So I served as president of my medical school class for the last 2 years of my term, and 2 years of our 4-year degree, and I was really lucky to be chosen as the valedictorian as well. And I think that leadership is a really important skill to have, even if you don't foresee yourself being necessarily a leader in what you're doing, or a leader in your field, or even if you prefer to play supportive roles. Learning how to lead is, no matter what you do, is important, because it gives you, again, a sense of independence. It teaches you how to think critically, and I think that no matter what, no matter who you are, people are going to look up to you in your life.
Yeah.
And so to be able to embody those kind of characteristics is something that everyone should have. And in medicine, there's a big draw and a big focus on balancing your life and balancing your work. And I guess, well, first of all, people would say, as a neurosurgery resident, you don't have that at all. Right? That doesn't exist for you. And in a way, I kind of agree. I don't know if it really exists. I do have a life, right? But I don't actually even know what people mean when they say work-life balance, because life is a huge part of my work. Work is a huge part of my life, but also vice versa, right? I don't go to work and turn my life off. I go to work and enjoy my work. I enjoy my colleagues. I enjoy the work I do. I enjoy being able to tell your patients that you were able to help them. That's a really important part of what I do. And as for the other parts of my life, obviously I go home and I enjoy being home. I have a cat, I enjoy my cat. I have great roommates, I enjoy being with them. When I'm with them, I'm with them. When I'm at work, I'm at work. And those things just kind of meld and fuse together. Always in life, I think you're going to be juggling more balls than you can really handle. And every once in a while, you do drop some. But I think that the main thing is just to keep moving forward.
So with balancing, or with the 80-20, how has it been like with friends? Have you been able to maintain friends? Have friends kind of left? How has that been?
I think that, as I grow older, as gray hairs are coming out now, you will naturally have friends in your life that you see a lot, and then just by the fact that you aren't physically in the same place as them, you kind of lose touch. And that's okay. As long as the friendship that you have is strong, then there's always a chance to rekindle it. I have two really good friends who I really love to death, and we had gone to do a hiking trip a couple of years ago, and I just got messages from them today saying, "Hey, this is our anniversary from this hiking trip." I haven't spoken to them in 6 months, but at the same time, the feeling of camaraderie and friendship don't fade. If anything, they're strengthened by the fact that you have been away for a little bit. So I do spend time with my friends still. A lot of my friends, I guess, to be fair, are at my work with me. But at the same time, I would say that as long as you have the same kind of mentality with your friends, then you can maintain those friendships. And friendships on which you don't have that mentality, or the bond is not that strong, they will dissolve. But that's not wrong necessarily.
Yeah, because I personally think it's very important to have friends where, like, if you don't talk for not like 5 years? What if you don't talk for like 6 months or 8 months, and like the moment you do start talking, you're able to get back into talking, especially now with COVID and everything going around. So personally, I think that's important because, communication.
I would totally agree with you.
So, as a neurosurgeon, can you please share with our viewers who a neurosurgeon is and what it takes to become one?
Sure. So, neurosurgery is it's a really challenging and really interesting field. It's the practice of basically we deal with everything in the central nervous system, so mostly brain, but we also do a lot of spine pathologies and that as well. I would say it's a grueling job. The hours are very long because the surgeries are difficult and challenging, and it takes a long time to finish the training. So, and in Canada, the training is it's a 6-year residency, plus or minus a year or two of fellowship training afterwards, plus or minus research, which is highly recommended in your program too. So sometimes you're looking at 10 years. That's not counting your 4-year undergrad. It's not counting your 4 years of medical school. But again, if I start thinking about the fact that I've been in school for 20 years, it kind of, I get sad. But I think that the big part of being in neurosurgery is that you really need to enjoy it. I have always said that, you don't have good mentors or you can't really count on your mentors in neurosurgery if at some point during your medical school education, they sat you down and said, you should not do this. Because I've heard that from multiple different mentors. Not to say like, you can't do it, Andrew. Maybe that's what they're trying to say, I don't know. But they're saying this is a big commitment and it's something that you need to really take seriously. And if you're in love with anything else, do that anything else. And I guess I found that I couldn't find as much joy as in other aspects of medicine as I could find in neurosurgery. So I just had to go for it. So I think that the big thing between people who decide to do neurosurgery and people who don't is that desire to be committed to the job. And again, I wish I could be interested in other things, but I'm just not. And so the path is kind of a standard path. I would say the path to medicine, a lot of people think it's challenging, and it is challenging, but I would say I look at my friends who are in law, I look at my friends who are in the workforce in other aspects and engineering, all these things, and I'm like, I don't know how you guys do this, because there's a bunch of different paths that you can take, and finding a job is difficult, and there are other aspects that are difficult, but in medicine, the goal is pretty straight. Once you're in it, you're kind of in it. I would say it's not really like, it's less of a path, it's more of a river. And of course that river is dangerous and it can drag you down and it will spit you out, but as long as you're able to navigate it, the end goal is there for you. So that means it's an undergraduate, an undergrad in anything. I would say the best physicians I know are physicians who didn't come from necessarily a science background. And I wish I could keep myself in that, but I can't. But people who have a big tie to the arts, people tend to be really critical thinkers. And so I always say that if you have that interest and you can have an aptitude for science, then medicine is for you. And go to medicine per se, and then do residency and graduate with 35.
So this is a rather absurd question, but when you meet people or you see someone, do you ever find yourself like diagnosing them to see if there's something wrong with them?
No, I try not to. I try not to, because then people start diagnosing me. And I think that there are a couple of diagnoses that you could lay at the feet of a lot of neurosurgeons. Narcissistic personality disorder might be one of them. I don't know, but it is funny though. Like you do see the world through a more of a medicine lens, and I find myself a lot of times talking to people who are not in medicine, or the worst is when you're with people who are in medicine and also with people who are not in medicine, because the talk will just devolve into a medical talk. And medicine is we have a particular type of view on things, and sometimes we have a kind of a dark sense of humor as well, which really doesn't translate well to people who are not in it. So you always have to be careful of that, but it's impossible to leave everything at the door, but you gotta be tactful, I think, with other people.
Have you ever done it though?
I'll plead the fifth on that one.
Oh, okay, fine. So, as a person of color, have you at any time experienced racism, either as a student or as a doctor, and how have you been able to deal or cope with it?
Sure. I would say that as a person of color in Canada, like absolutely, like to say that there is not racism is folly. Racism might not feel as virulent to you. It might not be always in your face, but again, I also need to acknowledge, my position, right? I'm personally not an immigrant. I'm a child of immigrants. I'm a man, so I have that going for me. I'm tall. I have other things that are positives in my life, and I'm a settler as well to this in Canada, right? I'm not a First Nations or an Indigenous person, and the reality is, and I see it all the time in healthcare, that people who are First Nations do experience a significant amount of racism in our society. And as a person of color, I can sympathize and empathize with that. I also need to, I think all of us need to recognize our place of both privilege and of disadvantage in order to move forward in the world. But no, absolutely. There were some times I remember growing up where I grew up in, I think, what most people would consider a very safe area in Winnipeg. It was a very suburban area, and I remember one day someone spray painted the N-word on on a garage door in big letters, and my neighbor who I'd mentioned, she's African as well, and they said, "Go back to Africa." And that was a very jarring example of the kind of virulent racism that you can get, and you can see in Canada. And so you always bring that forward going into your medical career and going into any career that you go forward into. I would say that there also is a definite feeling of I guess the word would be a microaggression. And I think one of the biggest things that racism can do is that it can really make you question yourself, especially those microaggressions. You get yourself thinking, did this person not offer me this thing because I'm black, or did they say, oh, like I didn't expect you to be here, or oh, I didn't expect you to be as to have this award, or I didn't expect this from you. Are they saying that because you're a nice jovial person, or are they saying that because they don't expect that from a person of color, from a black person? You have patients who've said some rather derogatory and racist things, to my face or and to our colleagues who are also people of color. So those things we need to be on the guard for, and that's why it's really important, I think, to have a community backing you, and also you backing the community, and having people in your life who are just going to get you based on the mere fact that you're very black, or the mere fact that you have a shared ancestry as well. Those things are very important. Keeps you sane, keeps you grounded in a world that will otherwise try to keep you askew.
I think an issue that a lot of people of color face nowadays is sort of figuring out the balance with, are they saying this because I'm a person of color, or are they actually just saying that because they're surprised? Because I know personally a problem that I've had in the past couple of months is I've just been focusing mainly on like the negatives and like racism, but I think a lot of the times I tend to forget, like at the end of the day, I do still have that privilege. I did still immigrate from Nigeria to Canada with my parents. I do still have education. I do still live in a safe neighborhood. Not many people can say that. Yes, the racism is there. It happens. We all face racism. But the important thing is sort of figuring out the difference between, okay, yes, this person's being racist, but how am I going to approach it? Because we all have the power to yell at them, become violent with them, but the most important thing is kind of becoming the bigger person and overcoming that with that, like kind of deciding, okay, I'm not going to sort of get into this verbal argument with you, rather than walk away. But I know a lot of problem is, like, how do you figure out when to talk back and react and when to just like kind of walk away?
Absolutely, and I think one of the big problems as well is there is a trope, right? They say, the angry black man, the angry black woman, that the sassiness, this idea of like, if you're aggressive or emotional, or you're not even aggressive, if you're emotional, well, if you're aggressive, and it's because you can't control yourself, you can't control your emotions. That tends to, I find, hold me back, right? But sometimes I feel like held back in this moment. Should there not be a place for righteous anger, or I think that kind of thing silences us, and it keeps us in a place where when we do see injustice, we don't speak up. And to be quite honest, it's hard. Even if it's, when it's racism directed towards you, racism directed towards your colleague, racism or sexism that you see in, that has nothing to do with you. In a way, society has kind of trained us to be quiet about it. And that lends power and lends credence to those problems and allows them to fester. So I think every person, I guess the big thing is for people like us is to think about it, right? And to be honest, one of the big difference between people of color and people who don't have to think about these things is that they don't have to think about these things, right? Whereas it's always in our faces, and everyone has a different style. I cannot say that. I know I have some friends who are very confrontational, and I know I can never take that style because I'm kind of a baby, you know. But at the same time, through watching them, I think I've grown, and I realized that no, sometimes it's good to take that time. I know people who say, you know what, when I succeed, I succeed. I'm just gonna tune them out, and that's a very good approach as well. And I've taken that track as well, but it's not always right. So I think in life it's mixing, matching, choosing, and from the myriad of examples we have in life, and that's why it's important to have mentors. That's why it's important to have people who like you, look like you, feel like you, thought like you, and be in a position like you.
I just think it's crazy though, because when you think about certain things and you're like, wait, like I know personally, there are certain thoughts I've had. I'm like, oh, does this person like me because I'm black, or will they like me because I'm black, or do they not like me because I'm black? But I realize that a lot of white people don't necessarily face that. That's not a thought that crosses their mind a lot of the time. And a lot of people of color, I don't know, maybe it's just me that I feel like this, but a lot of people tend to not unify. They are more towards separation rather than all coming together as a big community of people of color and seeing ways we can all help each other within the Asian community, within the indigenous community, within the black community, how we can make positive impact.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now, do you have any advice for youth on how to make positive impact?
Well, I would say that the biggest thing is try to be successful in yourself. And success is not necessarily making a lot of money. Success is not necessarily getting a big job promotion or things like that. I think that one of my favorite quotes is actually from Maya Angelou. And she said, success is liking yourself, liking what you do, and liking how you do it. And I think that I've taken that forward into my everyday life. And so that's how I'm successful at, even at cooking, not that I'm a great cook, but, having that sense of like, it's not just about liking it's not just about the external accolades that you'll get. It's about enjoying yourself and how you do it. And again, liking yourself. So I would say that if you ever want to make a change in other people's life, you need to first make a change in your own life. And the other thing I think is just to not push people away, not push away opportunities. A big part of being successful in this world is saying yes to things, or even if they're things that you don't think that you're capable of doing. Right? Obviously, you need to reach out for help. Obviously, you need to have a good self-awareness of what your skills are. But if you'd asked me 10 years ago, would I be a neurosurgeon? I would say no, that's crazy. If you'd asked me in the first year of medical school, like, would you want to do neurosurgery? I would say no, because I did not believe that I didn't have the scheme of that wasn't part of my schema. That wasn't part of my thought of myself. I thought neurosurgeons are up here and doing all this stuff. That's not me. I could never do that. And so part of that is reimagining yourself. Right, and so starting to think about, well, what exactly are the negative? Why do I have these negative thoughts about myself? Why can't I do these things? If not me, then who? Right, and so bringing back to your question about getting there to say how you can make a positive impact on other people and on your community. Again, is first of all you need to be able to root yourself, and I guess the next thing is to always center others as well, right? Because no person is an island, right? We are products of our community, we're products of our family, we're products of our friends, and to wall yourself off, I think that your success is just you limit your own success, and you also limit the success of others. So as soon as you feel like you can, reach out and make ties to other people. I think that's a big way to make positive change.
Do you ever find like overconfidence is an issue though?
Yes, totally, absolutely. Underconfidence is an issue, overconfidence is an issue. Again, it's all about that balance, right? It's about knowing yourself and trying to take a step forward every once in a while, but pride comes before a fall. Absolutely. I think that I have a kind of list of I have a list of kind of quotes that that resonate well with myself, and one of them is drive slow. Every once in a while you have to pump the brakes and kind of take stock for yourself. Because in this world it's tough, right? Sometimes you feel like you're the greatest, like come home from college and really but keeping that mentality always, right, can lead to some really dangerous mistakes. And I think that a mistake made from overconfidence is a really dangerous one. Right? And there's nothing worse than making a mistake is not the worst thing to do. And not learning from a mistake and not recognizing it is a really, really big one. So overconfidence, does play a big part of making those kinds of mistakes, which I always try to shy away from.
So I would just like to say thank you for joining us and sharing those personal moments with us. Viewers, I hope that you have learned some things from Dr. Andrew, and we are also determined to making positive impacts. So now we're going to go on a commercial break, and with my second guest right after the break. Thank you and stay tuned.
Hello there, I'm Buki Sholanke of Maximum Realty, your favorite real estate agent. With almost 15 years as a real estate professional, starting from United Kingdom and in Canada to being a licensed realtor here in Winnipeg, Manitoba, I am passionate in helping people make the right decision when it's time for them to purchase their dream homes and in selling their properties. I walk with you every step of the way, throughout all the process, to ensure that you do not fail. The professionalism, personal touch, and genuine empathy that I employ in getting the job done are what set me apart and also help build strong bond with all my clients, which makes them to always come back, as well as refer their friends and families to me. Call me today on 204-997-6117 to schedule an appointment, and I am all yours. Buki Sholanke, your trusted family realtor.
Hi there. The changing economy has affected almost everyone, even me. Do you want to know how you can supplement your income with a digital business? If you are that person and you are so interested, you can please reserve a seat for a free complimentary webinar at www.walahobomi.com to know more.
We welcome you to Yummy Fashion for all your souvenirs, asoebi, embellishment of fabric, and fashion designing needs.
Hello and welcome back from that very short break. I hope that you have subscribed, liked, and are leaving comments, and also do not forget to share this video with all your friends. So now that we are back, I have my second guest with me. So can you please introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Teniola Ocho, and I am the founder of Melon Unified.
So were you born in Canada? Were you born in Nigeria? Did you immigrate?
Yes, I am an immigrant. I am an immigrant myself. I was born in Nigeria and I moved here when I was 10 years old. So pretty young, my first double digits, starting a new life in Canada. And there definitely was a culture shock. There definitely was a weather shift from really hot weather to extremely cold weather for months and months on end. So I would really say that immigrating to Canada was a good decision. Props to my parents.
So, as an immigrant, when you came to Canada, what were your expectations?
Moving to Canada was one of the biggest things I guess my family and I have ever done as like together, and I wasn't expecting much. I was really just told a couple months before we moved, we're moving to the country, we're going to start a new life. You know, we're selling half our stuff, we're keeping half our stuff, and we're just upping and leaving. And I didn't know much about Canada. This is my first time ever hearing about this country. So moving here was different. I wasn't expecting anything. We got here, it was December and it was so cold and I didn't know what to do. We didn't have the right winter uniform, stuff like that. But since then, it's just been like blessings and blessings and obstacles and blessings and blessings.
I know personally, when my parents told me we were moving to Canada, I believe they told me about 6 or 5 months in advance. Luckily for me, so I had time. I had time. But I know for me, I did research. I researched. I looked at the flag. I memorized the anthem before we got here. I was ready. I even went on Google Maps. I was like, okay, we're living here. There's a school right there. The school is French immersion. I couldn't go there. So there's a school right there. Okay, there's Walmart here. This is great. My life is gonna be perfect. It wasn't perfect.
It was a struggle.
It was a struggle. It's still a struggle, but thank God. So how have you been able to utilize the opportunities found in Canada?
Utilizing the opportunities in Canada really started from when I shifted to my high school. Shifting to high school was a big change because it was an all-girls high school and it was really it was different. I was used to always being in a co-ed school and everything, but I would say that St. Mary's Academy really taught me how to be a leader. That's what the whole school is built on, building female leaders in this world. And I'm blessed. I'm blessed to have that opportunity to go there. Although I was very confused why between me and my sister, was going to that school. But I really thank my parents because it's the first opportunity / decision that was made to building and setting myself up for life. That's the first opportunity that I felt like I utilized properly.
So then how have you been able to utilize the other opportunities that have come your way? How have they found you or how have you found them?
With the other opportunities, it's really been about putting yourself out there. In this world, in the universe, in the world, really it's just about whatever you give out in the world is whatever you receive out in this world. So if you're putting out good efforts and putting out hard work and quality content and stuff like that, you will get it back in tenfold. So putting yourself out there is really the first step, and believing that you are worthy of these opportunities is also the first step. Along with that, you have to put in 110% in every single thing you do. It's not just about waiting and sitting at home and being patient and praying to God that something will come and find you. That's really not how this world works. So putting yourself out there, giving 110%, you'll realize that opportunities are flowing towards you. Sometimes some of them you have to go after, but some of them you find yourself just in the right time, at the right moment, and you just find yourself blessed.
A lot of people, kids, are teenagers, will be watching TV, scrolling on TikTok, and have this idea in their mind that somehow they're going to get this scholarship or this, the answer to this test is going to drop in their mind, but they forget that they need to put in work. You don't, it's give and take, you reap what you sow. You put in work. You put in work, you get what you put in.
Yes. And if you don't want to put anything out there, don't expect anything back.
Exactly. So you founded an initiative, Melon Unified, which stood you out amongst other youth. So can you tell us more about it?
Of course. So Melon Unified is an organization built towards Black youth to teach entrepreneurial and professional skills through resources, networks, and as well as mentorship. So Melon Unified was, I call it my baby. It's my first big passion project, and I believe it's something that will go on to last for years and years. You have to believe it to achieve it. So Melon Unified was it was born at my high school, St. Mary's Academy, and it was really just the first thing, the first opportunity that I've had revolving around Black youth in my city, around the world. After 2020, where in May, June, the riots and everything in the United States and around the world, that was really the biggest shift I've ever felt and the biggest push towards creating Melon Unified and just making sure that it's what the people need and deserve.
So then what informed the choice of this specific initiative? Why didn't you do something else, or why didn't you make it accessible to everybody rather than focusing on Black youth alone?
I chose Black youth because I am a Black youth. I can't choose another demographic because I don't necessarily relate to them on that exact same level that I do with Black youth. So specifically going with Black youth meant that I am doing something for my people and I understand the struggles and everything that has to go with that. Black youth are incredible. That's all I can say. Black youth, there is a passion, there is a drive, and there is some kind of magic within us. And coming together in a space that breeds these leaders and these creators and these professional people is what I think we've all needed. And that's why I did it. That's why Melon Unified is a thing, because there just needs to be a space where we come together and we learn together and we grow together.
Yeah, a lot of Black youth are always they always see the negative of their parents.
Yes.
Like, oh, they're so mean to me. They're always yelling at me, telling me to do my homework. But I think a lot of them forget to realize that the reason that they are where they are today, the reason they are achieving these grades, it's your hard work, but who's the person that taught you to think about these things? Who's the person that sat you down and was like, okay, listen up, you're not doing this and you need to do this? Because I know personally a problem I have is I forget to remember when I was little. Like, I know a lot of the time now I think I'm this big person. I can do it by myself. But then, like, sometimes it just, like, flashes in my mind, like, hold on. There was a point where I couldn't write. Yeah. And, like, my parents would hold my hand and, like, tell me, okay, this is how you write, and that was the thing. But a lot of Black youth specifically, I say Black youth because, you know, our parents are usually meaner. They push us because they know that it is more of a struggle for us in life to achieve these things. So they push us, but a lot of us forget to realize that it's for a reason. They're not just yelling at us because they just like, you know, I feel like yelling at my child today. Let me go yell at my child. It's more of they've experienced it. They know where they're coming from. They see these things before even we do. So in the process of birthing this initiative, can you share some obstacles that you were faced with and how you've overcome them?
Wow. Obstacles almost every single week. The first one I would really say was choosing the name. The reason obviously it's called Melon Unified is melon, so melanin, the thing that we have in our body that makes us glow, and unified to just signify the community that we're trying to build. So Melon Unified, Black people coming together to do good together. And that was the first obstacle. The second one was probably choosing colors. I decided, brown. We're brown skin. I like our color. We look good. And that just worked perfectly with melanin and with unifying us together. So brown. And then later on was designing and just choosing what kind of logos and what our message really, really was. That was the biggest thing. And everybody, I believe, we all go through like imposter syndrome, which is just having that feeling of this needs to be perfect, this needs to be exact. And we need to take a step back and realize that the opportunity to even have this idea in our head means that this is something I'm passionate about. You cannot do anything that you're not passionate about because you won't care about it the way you're supposed to. Understand? So being passionate about it, every single obstacle that came, I just reminded myself that I'm not doing this for myself. I'm doing this for the people in my city, for the people around the world. So if I'm feeling imposter syndrome right now, I'll put it away and I'll come back to it tomorrow. I know I'm worthy of what I'm trying to do, and I know that this is gonna come back in tenfold, and this is gonna impact people's lives the way I want it to. So overcoming those obstacles, I had to remind myself that this is my passion project. This is something I care about. This is something I want to do. not just because I had to do it, but because I cared about my community enough to do it. And that's what helped me with every single obstacle that I had.
So have you, by achieving all these things, Melon Unified specifically, have you had help from other people, or has it all just been like a one woman thing, power thing?
So ironic you say that, because I seem to be the kind of person who wants to do it by herself.
Yeah.
I want to do it, and I want to get it done my way, because if it's not done my way, I'll have a hard time, accepting it and actually liking it. I don't want to stress people out. I'm, oh, this is perfect. You understand? So at the beginning of it, it really was a one-woman show, because I learned that you really cannot tell your ideas to small-minded people. To people who you don't relate with, and people that don't have your best interest at heart. Your parents have your best interest at heart. Sometimes they might not understand exactly what your angle is with them, but deep down they do. So I learned from the get-go that you can't tell your idea to everyone. And I've always been the kind of person who likes to work on it, let it be done, and then show you, not necessarily talk about it, because that just has people in the mix, and lots of people in the kitchen doesn't always produce the best food. Sometimes you need to do it by yourself. So after I felt like Melon Unified was ready, it was ready to be done, I launched it, but then I also reached out to people, and it felt like people were reaching out to me to help. And just being at the right place at the right time meant that, these people are really my people. I call them my destiny helpers, the people who God has sent to me to help me in one way or another. And I didn't need to stress, and I didn't need to fuss or fight to get in contact with them. They came to me. And I'm blessed to have those kind of people in my life, because we need people who help us. You can't do it alone. As much as you try, as much as you're so stubborn, you can't do it alone.
So then have you had people along the way as well that have kind of like sat you down and were like, okay, listen up, you need to do it this way, or I advise you to do it this way?
I don't know if there's that many people, because I've always been a natural born leader. In school, it was never ever my goal to try to fit in. It was never my goal to try to blend in. Although there was the clothes everyone wears, the shoes everyone wears, I always wanted them. Never really got them. Can't complain. But I've always known since middle school that I was not the kind of person to fit in. Couldn't fit in. Then I realized that was never ever for me. So what I do, I stood up straight, and I knew that this is what I'm supposed to. I'm supposed to be the person who leads, the kind of person who does not follow. So there's not that many people who have said that this is not the right direction, but you need to understand that you don't take opinions from every single person, because they might not have your best interests at heart. I listen to advisors. They tell me, this is what you're doing it right, or maybe you should do it this way, and I consider it, but I'm always open to advice from people I care about and who also care about me.
How has it been? Because I know for a fact there's no way that you've gone through your entire experience in Canada or the entire process of birthing Melon Unified that there hasn't been friends or people along the way that have tried to discourage you, like don't do it, or the type of people that they just chose not to understand. So have you been able to sort of realize who these people were and take a step back?
Okay, so the first encounter that I always remember with this was when we're supposed to celebrate Black History Month at our school. So the first time in 150 years. And I proposed the idea to a friend. I'm like, I think we should do a whole month-long thing. We should have food, games, activities. And this was the second week in January. And she said, this idea is, it's way too big. We don't have enough time to do it. And I said, oh, okay, you're right. We don't have enough time to do it. Let's get together sometime and let's figure out what we should do. I waited and I never got a text back, or I never got, let's meet up.
Oh, wow.
And I just sat down myself. This was at lunch, and I was like, I actually do not have to do this together. This is not a class project where we both get a grade on it. This is outside of my education. This is an activity, and this is an initiative. It's not something I'm being graded on. It's not something I'm being judged on. So I went up and I proposed the idea to my principal, and she said, let's do it. Let's do it. You don't, like, I didn't come with anyone beside me, and I just went and I did it. And then forming the whole group, and then the person tried to get involved, and they were involved, and there was no hard feelings. But that was my first experience of not speaking and not telling every single person your idea. With Melon Unified, I had about 2 people who really knew about it. And by the end, yeah, everyone knew Melon Unified, but I don't talk about what I'm trying to do to a lot of people. I'd rather show you what I've done rather than tell you.
Yeah, at my school, they also sort of celebrated the first Black History Month this year.
What's cool?
Oh, it's Rose North School. It's like outside the city.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I had gone to a teacher at my school, and I was like, oh yeah, we should do something about History Month. And he was like, I don't think we can do that because my school, I'm the only Black person in my high school. It's the whole thing. But he was like, no, we can't do that. You know, like, first of all, it's already too late. It's mostly white people, like, people, parents don't want to hear that. And I was like, okay, cool. And then I went to my guidance counselor, and then she was like, oh yeah, we should totally do something. And then somehow we did something for Black History Month. It was a month-long thing as well. But I don't know, it was really shocking to me because that was a teacher that I was like, oh wow, this is a really good teacher. But then he said that, and I was like, oh wait, is there something there? Because I don't know, maybe it was weird. You know, you're talking to someone that you trust. Okay, I know this teacher, he's taught me. And then he says something like that, and you're kind of like, what? Like, is this not the same person that's been teaching me? Like, what's going on? But
you overcame.
I overcame.
Like you, as we should. Perfect.
As we should. So with your current status, I believe that you are a great influence in the society. Okay. So what are your aspirations, and what advice do you have for other youth that are aspiring to become an influencer?
Oh, wow. Aspirations. What I want to do in life. This is probably one of the biggest questions I get the most, and because, you know, with Melon Unified and just the success of it, and, you know, being in articles and just being around great people in the city, it's really exposed me to other great people in the city and people who I know have my best interests at heart. And the question I obviously always get is, what do you want to do? What are you trying to do? And the biggest thing is just to impact people's lives. I classify success as impact over income. So the amount of impact that I have in people's lives compared to, you know, just making money. I want to impact people's lives, and I want there to be, you know, a sense of community within the Black community. So an aspiration of mine is just to make sure that Melon Unified is world known. Melon Unified is a space that youth can go into, youth can be a part of, and they know that they're going to walk out of it learning something new and being set for life. That's my biggest aspiration. And just, you know, I want to do a lot of things. And like I said before, it's so hard for me to say what I want to do without showing you what it is yet. It's not about anything else, but I'd rather show you than tell you. So, Melon Unified, Dami Ojo, watch out for it.
So you're graduating this year,
yes,
right? So how has it been picking out a university, and how's that entire process?
Picking out universities, I'm staying in Winnipeg, so I'm going to the University of Manitoba, and it was sort of like a simple decision. It was just, with COVID and everything, it's hard to move out of province because you're going to be by yourself, so you're going to be stuck in dorms and everything. And I've always wanted to study business. Asper School of Business, practically business and Asper, they go hand in hand. So it was an easy decision, but I'm taking the first year to just, you know, find out what I really want to do in university. I already know what I want to do in life. I want to continue and pursue this Melon Unified organization thing, but how can I use my education to implement what I learned into Melon Unified? I personally believe that there has to be a correlation in just what I do. So I'm going to take the first year to really develop and find out my passion in education, and then potentially move into the Aspirations School of Business and just succeed there and also succeed with Melon Unified.
So if COVID wasn't a thing, like let's say COVID never appeared surfaced.
Never a thing.
Never a thing. would you still be going to the U of M?
That's a really good question. I would say yes. It's really hard because as we grow up, it's harder. It's more tough for us to leave our city. But I moved here when I was 10, and it was fresh and it was new, and I kind of want to stay here. But I know that after my 4 years of university, I don't think Winnipeg is my where I want to visualize myself and see myself completely succeed. I don't think it is. And for some people, it is because this is where they were born, this is where they were raised, and this is where all their family members are. So it's kind of hard for them to leave, you understand? So with me moving out of Winnipeg, I believe it's a must. And probably after 4 years, move to somewhere like Calgary, the mountains and the city life, and just live out my dream. Yeah, that's my dream. Calgary is my dream.
So then what advice do you have to younger kids, teenagers that are somewhat on the path to maybe becoming an influencer, a leader, or that's just really struggling in making an impact within the community in general?
I love that. And every single time I get a question like that, like, why did you do Melon Unified? Why do you care about it? Is my passion. I'm passionate about the Black youth, and I'm passionate about helping people. And then my purpose is really just to help. My purpose is to impact people's lives in a positive way. And in every single thing you do, you need to find your passion. And if you don't know your passion, it's not going to make any sense to you. You're going to struggle with it, and you're going to feel like quitting because you don't care about it that much. Secondly, you need to have a why as to why are you doing this. Not just, I'm doing this because I like the money that it makes and I like the car that I can drive. Why are you deep down doing this? And if you cannot write down on paper what your why is, you're not gonna care about it that much. So you need to find your purpose, and you need to find your why, and you need to get it done, because that's the first step. It all starts with your mindset, and everything all starts with your mindset. Killing that imposter syndrome every time it comes, and just doing it because you want to do it. This life is so short; you have to do it just because you want to do it. As long as it's not hurting you, and as long as it's not hurting anyone, and you're passionate and you have a why, I would say just do it. Just do it. Like Nike says, just do it.
So then, have you had any moments though where you have been kind of like stressed though, where you like took a step back and like, is this what I want to do with myself? Is this what I want to do moving forward with my life?
Yes. I believe that obviously, as cheesy as it says, pressure makes diamonds. Pressure creates amazing things. You don't have to be under pressure 24/7, but it really helps, and it puts you underground, and you're concentrating on what you're doing. You're not on surface level. You're not just having surface level conversations. You're actually trying to have conversations and trying to talk to people who are going to help you one way or another. So being focused on what you need to do and making sure that obviously gets done and stuff like that. It's stressful. It's stressful. Everything you do, you have to feel some kind of stress. As bad as it sounds, you have to feel something, because you know that you're under pressure, and by the end of this tunnel, you're going to come out 10 times better than you started.
And then would you say having good role models is important, because there's a lot of people that are like, oh well, this person on TikTok she's doing so well, that's what I'm going to do. Like, would you say having a good role model plays a big part?
Role models are important. I'm starting to realize it recently, in all honesty, that role models, they're necessary. Just kind of like realizing and envisioning who you want to be in the future. In all honesty, your role model could be yourself, who you see in 10 years, the person who you see at your highest. This is the highest possible status that I see myself, and having that as your role model. What would Dami in 10 years say? Would she be sitting and scrolling on Instagram at 10 p.m. when she could be doing this and this and this? If Dami in 10 years is not doing that, why am I doing that? Because that is the person I'm trying to reach, and that's the person I want to be. So without envisioning yourself and without putting yourself in that vibration of, success, you're just going to be slacking, to be honest. You're just going to be slacking. You're just going to be doing anything you want to do. So you could be your own role model. You can look up to people, and they can be your role model. But they set a standard of who you want to be, but don't stress about it that much. Everybody has their own path. You need to stay in your own lane, but you can obviously have role models that guide you.
Finally, can you also tell our viewers like what the difference between having a role model just to guide you is, and then the difference between having a role model because you want to be that person? Because a lot of people struggle with, okay, this person is successful and I've seen their success and I want to be successful like them. Cool, be successful, do your thing. But then there's also the kids that forget, like, you're not that person. There's the people that want to be that. They're successful, therefore I must go the exact same path, the exact same thing they went through to be exactly like them. So can you, like, tell people what the difference between that is?
There's, like I said, if I envision myself as Dami in 10 years, the person she is and the person she's going to be, I'm already Dami. I'm not somebody else, I'm already Dami, so I know that that's where I want to be and that's the person I'm going to be. I'm not looking into somebody else and following their exact path. But when you follow someone's exact path to a T, you need to realize that, one, your brain doesn't develop the same stage that they did. The things that I understand now is, some things that I may not understand, or I didn't understand like 5 years ago, and the way my brain develops is not the same way your brain develops. So forcing yourself and putting yourself under that kind of anxiety, it's not the way like incredible people and successful people are made. It's not that way. Yes, they have mentors, and yes, they look up to people, but they look up to people for mentorship and stuff like that. But they don't say, hey, come sit down with me. I want to learn about your entire life. What was your mom like? What was your dad like? Should I go hire a new mom? Should I go get a new dad so I can be exactly like you? It's not going to work like that. And I really hope I can sit down with these people and actually tell them that, like, I'm sitting down with you, you're not going to feel good, because when you realize that your life is not like that and your life is not going to turn out like that, you're discouraged and you find yourself so like you're not going to do it anymore. But there's something about you. You being you is your superpower, and being you is what makes you you. Simple as that. You have a uniqueness, you have your own sauce. Stick to it and stay in your own lane, and you're going to find success in your own lane.
Thank you very much, Dami. For all our parents watching, I hope you've been able to learn something to impact your children. And for all the children watching, I hope you've also been able to learn something to make an impact within your community, within your school, even within yourself. So thank you for watching. So now it is critical to note that people who have made a real life difference, like a real difference in the community, they're not all privileged. They're not all advantaged. They're not all special in any way. We're all humans. We all have the same blood coursing through our veins. We're all human. Many people come from disadvantaged families, challenging circumstances, and limited capability. But they've all found a way to pick themselves up and rise above their circumstances in order to transform their own lives. Because we all need to remember, it's not how you fall, but how you get back up. Remember, it's not how you fall, but how you get back up. So now you too can make positive impact and become the next influencer. And just look around you and you will find a problem that you can solve. It might seem minuscule to you, but you don't know who else is facing this problem that's keeping it in secret. So try and try. So now on this note, this is where we draw the curtains on your program, the platform. And until we come your way again next month, together and in love, we can make the world a better place.